Hello and welcome to the Front Row Back Row podcast. My name is Dr. Owen Campbell. With me, as always, is Dr. Brian Wolf. And we together are Physio Growth. Physio Growth is a mastermind group where we get together once a week. We have a Q&A. You get to pick Brian and my brain. Brian started his clinic from the back of his car, and now he's got 5 clinics going over there in Connecticut and Long Island. And I have a history of corporate PT where we would grow clinics, grow their revenue, and get them to the point that we had pretty successful sales. So um, check that out. It's in the show notes, www.physio-growth.com, and you can learn more about that. And hopefully, we'll see you in our mastermind group. So today we are talking about corporate wellness. So one of our other episodes is about industrial physical therapy, where we're working with like plumbers and if they're sore, making sure that they don't get throw their back out while they're lifting a water heater. But then there's this other side of how you can work directly with an employer, which is called corporate wellness. And Brian has a lot of experience in this, so I'm going to let him kind of share a little bit about how he's been able to attract corporations and do some of these clients, what it entails as a business owner, what are some of the things you want to look for, and just kind of run with it. So Brian, take it away, man. Like tell me about how you've kind of dipped your toe, or I don't know, are you knee deep in corporate wellness right now? Like, tell me about it.
Well, I think part of what here's the thing I would say about corporate wellness in general, right? And I can tell you the model of how it would work really well. Because
Well, what's the difference? I guess what's the big difference between corporate wellness and like what we were describing before, where we're just trying to make somebody lift a water heater?
it's no different than so when you think about what you're talking about from that missed day's work type of thought process.
Yeah.
Now what we're doing is we're purely zoning in on how can we add a benefit that a company can provide their employees,
Okay.
right? And so ultimately when it comes to corporate wellness, I mean, there's a couple different ways you can do it, right? So I'm going to paint the picture for going to the corporation and doing it. I'm going to paint a picture for them coming to see you, right? In that
Okay.
aspect. So say there's group fitness in that way. Let's start with that since we're talking about community, like corporate wellness, right? So say I think in fact let's go with, because I feel like the majority of these owners that are listening to this, or people that are listening to this, are kind of thinking about the solopreneur route and starting that way. Um, but I also think this is a really good way that you can start it if you're in a business and like one of my physical therapists, they said to me, "Hey, I really want to get into more corporate wellness and go into people's jobs, right, and helping them." I'd say, awesome. What we're going to do is we're going to create relationships with people and we're going to find HR people. So, you talked about in the last one, talking about somebody who owned a plumbing company. So I think this is bigger corporations. Like for us, like we've, had conversations with companies like Indeed. We've had conversations with people like Booking Now, California Pizza, like different things like that. Reinsurance companies, corporations that hire lots of people. And then what you could do is you could say, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to basically and think about this too. So we'll chat about the insurance side of it. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to come in for a certain amount of money, and that you're going to pay us for your employees as a perk. Now, there's a bunch of different ways you can structure that. And you can structure that individually for each corporation. You could say, hey, I charge for a class is $150. For the class, you can have 15 to 20 people in there. I could charge per head. I don't recommend that because if you have no one show up, that sucks. I think that it's really good to have a way to do it where you're saying, hey, like, I'm going to charge the employees half and you charge the other half. That's a really good way to do it. If you're in the insurance game, it's a whole nother ball game. So say like a company like Indeed's a great example. They have a corporation, they have Aetna insurance. And so there's somebody that's low hanging fruit for us because we take Aetna. So we could say, listen, you're going to pay us X amount of dollars per week to go into a corporate wellness class. We're going to waive all of their copays, but we can charge their insurance for individual for like a group class, right?
Mhm.
So now they don't feel a thing, or we're going to charge them half their copay, right, or something like that, right? Whatever, however that works. And so there's ways to create that corporate wellness environment. So you just got to get creative with what you're doing. The other aspect is then going in there and actually doing everything at corporate wellness. Especially a company like that with insurance or something like that. Hey, pay me my rate of $175 an hour, kind of like what
Mhm.
Owen charges. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk around the office and do ergonomic testing. I'm going to
Yep.
look at, we'll check and see how chair heights are. We'll do all sorts of like that. We'll look where screens are. I'll do a talk at lunch for everybody. Like, you can come and invite me for the day, and it's a day rate. I know a massage therapist who does massage chair days, right? Where she
Yeah.
brings a chair and does like massage stuff and manual work. So that's an opportunity to go in there. So and then one of my favorite ones was actually a client of mine came up with this and said, hey, like, this would be an awesome way to do this, is that you find corporations, because we have gyms locally, is if you come to our gym in this location, right? Because a lot of these big corporations around we are have their own gym facilities, but maybe they don't necessarily want to work out there, right? So if you don't want to work out there, all right, cool. We can offer you a gym membership, a 50% off gym membership. And what we're gonna do is, because that you're a ex-employee for whatever company, right? Um, Basically, you get a 20% discount, but the company picks up the 30% of the actual gym membership, and then the person pays 50%. So it becomes a very easy offer. That's another one that I really liked. So we've
Ah, okay.
we've we've kicked that around to a lot of corporations in town, because
Yeah.
basically we're getting 80% of our gym membership. But if someone paid for the year, we would give them 20% discount anyway. So it's a
Ah,
really
yeah.
nice way to build that and to build a referral source. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do corporate wellness right there.
So to go back and just to clarify, right? Because you said something about waiving copays, right? And I know typically, you can't waive someone's copay. It's part of like an insurance contract, right? So like, are you talking about like the corporation picks up part of it and then the patient picks up part of it, or is it like something where you work out a deal where like something gets paid, right? Because or is it like at an employer level where because they're the ones who have this massive contract, they can kind of like figure it out.
No, I'm saying we don't pick up their copay. And let's be real.
Yeah.
For those, I know what Owen's trying to do is from a legal perspective. Look, no insurance company's coming after me for my insurance contract because I didn't grab more money from their client, right? So the reality of what we do is a lot of them will bake in, they'll pay X amount of dollars for a certain amount. And what we'll do is we'll say, hey, we're not going to, worry about that copay here, right? Or we're going to
Okay.
change this, right? And so we can modify that. Um, that's for some of these classes for wellness stuff. Do we do that often? No,
Okay. So it's
right?
not.
We
So
lose
it's
out.
kind
The
of like.
insurance company doesn't care. And if the
Okay.
insurance
So
company said you didn't charge them the full amount, I'd be like, all right, well, like, again, think no different than if you were to cut them a discount on your cash rate. All these
yeah.
insurance companies have gotten very good at like it's incorporated within their contracts. Meaning,
Okay.
like, if say, let's use ballpark. I wish it was this much, but say all the insurance companies reimburse us $100 per visit. If they
Yeah.
have a $20 copay, it's not on top of the $100. It's
Yeah.
inside that $100.
Yep.
So what is important for us, that's why these guys wrote these contracts this way, so that you couldn't just sweeten the deal like that
Yeah, and it wouldn't
and
be
bill
like a
them.
different. Yeah, and it wouldn't be like a differentiator of
No.
like you versus somebody else bidding for it because like your price would be lower and you would basically because it's a contract at a massive rate,
Yeah.
you would basically make it so that you're still finding that money somehow. So,
Exactly.
um
Like
okay.
for us, what we would do is almost say, hey, like, again, what's cool about corporate wellness in that way in the insurance realm is typically, like, I know certain companies that have better insurance policies than others. So say certain ones like, well, we have a zero copay type of process. That works out great because the people aren't going to feel it.
Yeah.
For me in corporate wellness, one thing that I will recommend for a lot of people now, if you go to something, if you think about if you go and you go do something at a any type of corporate wellness event or any type of event whatsoever, and the person doesn't have any financial commitment, typically your show rate's a lot lower, particularly with
Yeah.
fitness. So it is nice to have somebody have a little skin in the game. So that's
Yeah.
the one nice thing about doing stuff through that process of, hey, we have you take our insurance, we'll waive these copays, blah blah blah, right?
Got it. Okay.
Or you find a company that has like great insurance benefits where there's no deductibles, or like you're waiving deductibles, that kind of thing.
Yeah, or
So
they'll cut you
so
a check for the difference. So either
yeah,
way, somebody's paying for it. Yeah.
bingo,
Yeah.
exactly. That's a huge piece of it.
So
And-
then
oh,
my next my
sorry, go
my
ahead,
ne-
go ahead.
yeah, it was so
Let me. I was going to talk about one
yeah.
thing because I said about another insurance piece. So one thing that I had a friend who worked in benefits that actually made me aware of this. there are a lot of health initiatives for a lot of big corporations, meaning
Mhm.
that insurances will actually cut giant checks, like up to $50,000,
Yep.
that's used on corporate wellness.
Yep.
So these guys, some of these bigger companies, if you say, "Hey, do you have any money in this budget?" What happens a lot of times, they'll say, "Yes, I do. We do have money for that." And say, "Okay, like of the 10,000, $15,000 that I need for this program, write it out of that budget." So ironically, again, that's the insurance game. There's actually insurance. So say they take Aetna, you're in a healthcare, whatever, they'll
Yep.
say, "Oh, there's like a $20,000 that we're going to write as a check to that," and then again, we can credit it towards different bills and whatnot from
Yeah.
that perspective. So
Well,
there's actually a lot of money built in. So that's why you want to, and then you want to find these HR people. You want people to be connected. If you have clients that are in HR, if you have people that that are in HR, those are the people that you want to talk to about that company and how you can jump in.
so this is my question, right? Because again, someone who doesn't deal with this every day, right? You just mentioned that you sat down. Now, again, you got 5 clinics. It's nothing small, but you're not ATI, you're not Athletica, right?
Yeah.
You're not some of these, USPT, PRN, whatever, right? And you're sitting down with a Fortune probably 200 company, right? So Fortune 500 company, and you're talking to them about their corporate wellness for like their headquarters, right? So to me, I look at corporate wellness when I see it, like, oh, you should get into corporate wellness. They're like, yeah, I should, but like all the big guys are probably already there, right? And from what it sounds like, is the shortage in PT like staffing, right? Almost as a benefit for us, right? Where like the smaller guys can come in and be like, look, you have a headquarters in my town. I can solve this problem for you. And they'll actually take your meeting, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to like, I'm thinking like, my God, you got to know like 8 people and they all must have went to the same class in Harvard together. You're telling me you could just have a contact that's in the HR department.
For
So
sure.
like walk me through kind of the sales process on that. Like, so you said if you have patients or contacts, right, in an HR, but like, is there any other way that you can generate this business? Like, or
Yeah.
at
I mean,
least get your foot in the door?
I think this is the aspect of what we talk about advertising going after cold leads. So like LinkedIn is really good for this. So LinkedIn, you can type up and I can find out who the HR person is for blah blah blah. Like I got invited to a health, and I'll tell you some of the barriers that happens. And this is not to create mindset issues, right? This is just to understand that these are barriers that you got to figure out.
Mhm.
Some HR people aren't really into fitness and wellness, right? They don't
Yeah.
really give a shit. So the
No.
reality is when it happens, like you're gonna have a tough sell for that person,
Yeah.
right? And you get and just realize that, right?
Yeah.
Two, say there's somebody who's super in HR, but there's other people. There's just barriers to where you're actually going to get in and be creative, and you have to meet people where they are. We talked about that. So you have to meet people where they're at within that budget, right?
Okay.
Not just budget, but what the value is.
Yeah.
The other aspect is, when it comes to like cold outreach, realize that it might take 100 reach outs to get one or two people that actually want to do this,
Yeah.
right? So like, to do it 10 times and it didn't work and say, "Oh, this doesn't work," is just nonsense, right?
Yeah, this is my thought is like if I have a 4-hour block, right, where oh
Yeah, yeah.
God, 2 people canceled on me and I don't have to pick up my kids until 5. This would be a great use of time just getting on
Yep.
LinkedIn, connecting with just search HR Phoenix and
Yep.
then just connecting with as many people as possible and then trying to send them or if you have like a premium subscription with LinkedIn, a lot of people who are employing or hiring, right, they have that because that helps them with recruitment.
Yep.
This seems like a great way of spending like 3 or 4 hours
Totally.
shooting out a bunch of texts and then see what sticks.
It actually is very easy in that capacity. And again, to show you how easy it is to do HR, in Stanford where I am, I will get a bunch of hits for that.
Yeah.
Right. And like
Oh
it'll
yeah.
work,
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, it
especially in
makes it super
corporate
easy.
where LinkedIn is such a big when I was at
Yes.
Athletico at a big corporate company, everybody was on LinkedIn, all the
Yeah.
PTs, all that stuff. Because let's be honest, it's a national company. How are you going to connect with anyone? It's not like you're going to see each other at the water cooler, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this seems like a very time efficient way of marketing.
100%.
You know,
100%. Again, going back to what we were talking about, right? And here's another aspect of it. There was a big opportunity, and I think there still is kind of an opportunity because of COVID. A lot of people went to work from home, and then what happened was, hey, we got to figure out how to draw people back to the office.
hmm
Oh, we're running these wellness programs now where you can do that. You only get the benefit of doing them if you come back into the office.
yeah,
So that's a really nice way, another angle for it, also. But yeah, I mean, to go over this, I mean, I just typed in human resources for Stanford, Connecticut, and boom, I just saw a bunch of different. I just got a bunch of different people. It's funny; it'll bring you to job stuff, which is kind of interesting,
Yeah.
which is always interesting. But you can
There you go.
also
Career
play
change,
around with.
Brian. Go for it.
Yeah, exactly. But you can look at, different filters and playing around with it onto who these people are,
Yeah.
and have them help, right? So there's just so many different easy ways to get these people's information.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, like you're in a great spot, right? So that's a very easy one for sure.
And
So
to have that mentality, remember cold versus warm traffic, right? Warm traffic is the
yeah,
patient who happens to be in HR for Bank of America, right?
yeah,
They're gonna, you talk to them, have a face-to-face conversation, and say, "Hey, I'd really love if you could help me with this." You have to do that once, right? But you've worked to get that person. Cold traffic, it's 100 times, 200 times, 300
yep,
times. But if you get one or two leads like this, like you're saying, it could be pretty advantageous for anybody from like a cash PT who's just starting out like me, all the way up to, you're trying to find some other line of business that isn't just begging doctors for referrals. So,
yes, exactly. And I think the key is also trying to figure out like what you want to do, right? If you're wanting
yeah.
getting into adult fitness, this is a great thing to add, right,
Oh,
to what you're
especially
doing.
if you have fitness forward PTs as
Yes,
your employee. You're an athletic clinic, so you're going to have people who want to do this stuff,
yes.
right? So it's a great way of motivating staff.
For sure. So there's a lot of different ways you could do it, right? So you can create different like corporate places that you can build. And most people have friends that are involved in some capacity in a corporation. So all you gotta
Yeah,
do is ask them like, hey, do you have a friend who works in HR? Oh, yes. Hey, can you put me in contact with them? Can you give me their email? Can you give me their cell phone? You know what I mean? And so
yeah,
you can usually lean on those people to do some of that. And that's how I've gotten some good connections in that front.
nice.
And so you can always play around with it. So these are the types of things that we help people in with physio growth is like actually be saying, hey, what are ways that we can get involved in corporate wellness? Here are some of the ideas that we've used in the past. Here's what's been successful. And here are some of the pitfalls and obstacles you're going to need to overcome. So again, when we talk about this, it's not always pain free. I wish I could tell people that is pain
Mhm.
free, but again, to your point about another piece, is if a physical therapist came to me and said, "Hey, I really want to get more into wellness, and I think I want to try to do some corporate wellness stuff," I'd say, "Hey, let's go and figure out what's going on and how we can get involved in that, and let's go around different corporations, and if they can just run that program and we can make money off of that program, guess who I'm going to pay more money, right? Those people who can run
Mhm.
those different programs." So there's a lot of things with corporate wellness that PTs can be doing right now with private practice to make more money for their clinic that directly correlates back to their name. And so instantly when you do that, you create more value for that business owner in that business.
Yeah. Cool. So if you want to learn how to do stuff like that, these are the types of questions we answer weekly on our weekly Q&A call. Shoot us a follow on all the fancy, God, I'm saying like shoot us a follow, like and subscribe. I think because my daughter's like watching YouTube now because I'm a great parent. Uh, so she pulled out a like and subscribe the other day, and now I'm like, oh God, it's like running through my head. Anyway, follow us on the Facegram, Instabook, whatever, and
Nice.
www.physiogrowth physio-growth.com. Please save me.
For those people listening right now, if you go to physio-growth.com, we're offering all of our different courses for free as part of our membership. So it's 99 bucks a month. So all of our video training on starting, growing and building a business within a business, growing your own cash-based practice, building all of that free training is now all that training is free right now in our group. There's no upsell to this. So if you're interested in joining us, you should because we ultimately are giving all this stuff away for free.
And everyone just witnessed the downside of a midday coffee for me. All right. And with that, I
Nice.
am out, my friend. Have a good one.
I see ya.
See ya.